to strive and their business to do well, and let us have what we need to do. Because one of the major things is that electricity should be well supplied to cities and rural areas, and you see what will happen. People will not spend much money on PMS of diesel.
Well, while you were speaking, you mentioned the Shopee buses and
Exactly.
all of that, everything that happened then. Are there any historical examples or international best practices that Nigerians could learn from when it comes to navigating price hikes and ensuring minimal disruption to the economy?
If you take the Western world for example, if before they remove subsidy, before they do it, they create the enabling environment for their people.
Okay.
One of the such enabling, because when we remove subsidy from PMS, an example you should mention is rail transport, intercity rail transport. For example, we have it in Abuja, but the project has been abandoned. Can we go back and resuscitate? Now they have it in Lagos. The Lagos own could be taken advantage of. Now in Lagos they also have what they call the electricity bus. So if you are not entering public buses, private buses of these downfall buses and the yellow buses in Lagos, you go and enter the blue buses or the red buses of the government, which is more cheaper, because those ones will not increase their fare. In Western world that we should learn from, they already create that enabling environment, like intercity rail or within municipal rail system that allow transportation to be cheap. But here in Nigeria, we started in Abuja. Do you know that this your area that you are staying, this particular environment where we have this radio station, there is going to be a rail, intercity rail, that will pass through this particular environment. Okay. But here we are today. The park is not far from your studio here, but the project has been stalled. It's not ongoing. You get it? So government need to go back to that, because that's what the Western world can learn from did. Because when you remove subsidy from energy costs like PMS, it means that the transportation will be the first hit, then before it's not transmitted to other aspects of the economy. So we must tackle the transportation problem of Nigeria, especially the intercity own, which means that we must introduce what they call rail system. I just want to commend the national state government. They are trying to do that between Kefi and Maraba, which is the into Abuja. They are trying to build a railway system. I just hope it work for them. But Abuja has already have its own master plan for a rail system. Lagos has its own. Other states should also copy to reduce the impact of the increase in the PMS, because that is the number one thing we must target. If we target transportation and make it more accessible, more cheaper, then the effect will not be too much on other sectors of the economy.
Okay, amazing. Now, how might the fuel price increase impact? Now, this is a group of people that I'm very, very passionate about, small businesses and entrepreneurs. And what strategies can they employ to adapt and thrive during this period?
Definitely, the first thing they must do is to ensure that they have access to the supply of the PMS in their various business. If they have access to the supply, definitely they will have enough to service their businesses. But the incurring costs, they have to transfer it to the customer or to their client. But they should not do it in a way that it will kill the business, then it will take their customer away from them. Because as it is now, everybody is adding close to 200% on top of their costs. If you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Someone thinks that it was 100 naira now is now 300. Something that was 200 is now 400. Something that is 400 is now 600. So everybody just adding about 200% on top of what they are getting. So small business SMEs should not do that. Although initially they may quickly want to react to it, but they should think inward how to maintain their customer. In a sense that they should not just react in a way that their customer will not say, okay, since your own is like this, we'll go to other places. And a lot of businesses are waiting. A lot of people are waiting for customers. So definitely they will change here and go to other places. But we should just try as much as possible to manage this business the way that we will not be in a loss, but we should also keep our customer intact.
Yeah, like you said, I just want you to reiterate how they would be impacted, because I think you dwelled more on what they can do.
Exactly.
But how are they going to be impacted?
Definitely they will be impacted, because most of them will not be able to stand the cost, will close shop. One is that it will affect their production, because one thing they will first do is to increase price, and once they increase price, customer level will drop. And when customer level drop, that means whatever materials they must have bought to service their customer will be in waste. That is number one. Then number two, the profit and rent they will be paying will also be incurred. And if they don't have money to pay rent, what will happen to them? They will close shop, or their landlord or the owner of their shop would send them packing. And again, their equipment will be getting waste, depreciating, because it is not being used.
Yeah.
Then another aspect is that they themselves psychologically they will be affected, because once a business is affected, the owner of the business will also be affected psychologically. And you know what happened? The stress of it, before you know, high blood pressure and other sicknesses may come, because your business is falling, there is no customer, and there is high cost of production. And again, that business could have been a business that have gone to bank to borrow money, so you have to pay the percentage of the loan of your borrow
service
the loan. And what will happen to such loan? If you can't pay, the banks will come, you'll be liquidated or bankrupt, and they'll pick everything. And if that person cannot pay, they may take the person to court, and what would the court do? The person can even go to jail. So those are the areas that they may lose out. So they must use wisdom to be able to do this business at this point in time.
All right, great. Can you share any insights on potential inflationary pressures and how they might affect the purchasing power of Nigerians in the light of the fuel price increase?
Definitely, there is inflationary pressure now. Already, we are having 22.44%. That is the current data we are struggling with, which means that everything in Nigeria, in terms of the cost, in terms of the inflation, is 22.44%. Talk of luxury, talks of equipment, talks of any item that you talk about,
including basic necessities.
Exactly. So now, with the current challenge that we have with the increase in pump price of petrol product, definitely the inflation will rise. And as I said earlier, it could be 25% before the end of the month. It could be more than that. But the inflation we are talking about also come as a result because our currency will lose value. When you talk about inflation, that means there's a devaluation of the naira one way or the other, because what 10 naira could buy yesterday, it is 30 naira that can buy it. That means 10 naira has not been devalued. 10 naira doesn't have a value face in terms of purchasing something worthy. So what 10 naira will be buying will now be go down. Maybe what 10 naira will not be buying was what 5 naira was buying earlier. So what 5 naira will buy now could go into extinct, because such things will not exist again. I don't know whether you understand. Yeah. So 5 naira now, before you can get something for 5 naira, because there are still some little bubble gum that is being sold for 5 naira. But bet me, I don't think that will exist in the market now. So that's how inflationary pressure comes. The value of a particular currency will begin to be going down, and the purchasing power of the people means that if you are earning 100,000 and that 100,000 can take you throughout the month, definitely 100,000 cannot take you even after half of the month.
Okay, got that. So that being said, I would just want us to wrap up here because we're running out of time. Generally, now, what are your final thoughts on the navigating the official fuel price hike, and whether or not we're having a smooth transition for Nigerians,
exactly.
if there's a way to get that done?
I think number one is that initially in the past, people mistrust the government. Although why we are giving this new government another chance is that it's new. It wasn't part of the previous government, and we want to see a transparent in the management of the oil and gas sector.
Absolutely.
Especially with the PIA, the Petroleum Industrial Act that we have in existence, they have said that government must deregulate the oil and gas sector, which means the midstream and the downstream sector of the economy of the oil and gas sector must be deregulated. The upstream has not been deregulated, which means that government is still participating in the upstream. That the upstream is where they exploit the crude oil and the gas, but the downstream and the midstream is where we produce, distribute and supply the people. So government deregulating to allow market forces to take over, but the mistrust must not continue in this government. If there's any action that the government must take, it must ensure that since it has removed subsidy, nobody want to hear we are owing a dime or a kobo for subsidy. That's when Nigeria will be angry with the government, because as it stands now, we are the one paying for our PMS as it stands. That means government is not paying a dime for us. That is just it.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Adefolarin Olamilekon. This has been a very, very exciting and interesting conversation. Of course, the conversation continues on social media. On Twitter, it is at VOP961FM, as well as Instagram at VOP961FM. We have spent the past 45 minutes discussing navigating the official fuel price hike, smooth transition for Nigerians, and Mr. Adefolarin Olamilekan has been our guest. I think you've done a lot of justice to the subject. Thank you very much for being in the studio with us. And thank you for listening. Of course, Matters continues with Formula U. Don't touch your dial because we have a very, very interesting episode lined up for you.
Take some time off that busy schedule. Let the music play on. Voice of the People, 96.1 FM. 96.1